Hey guys, there's nothing much to say for the intro that much. Michigan just finished their season, a very good season for Michigan, winning a Big Ten title, falling just short in the playoff. Michigan had a very successful team this year, and unlike last year where they lost a bunch of players to the NFL draft, this year most of the players are returning, and they've actually had a pretty good transfer class for once. So I think that Michigan's lineup will be pretty interesting. So that's why I got the idea to predict their starting lineup, and I'm not going to do defense and offense in the same video. That'll be a little too long, so I'm just going to do two separate videos probably. And right now I'm going to do Michigan starting offense predictions. I'll try to do this for other teams if you guys really want me to do it for them, even though I'd probably have to do more research for that. But yeah, let's get into this. Starting at the QB position, it is obviously JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy had a very good season last year, and well, he wasn't perfect, and in the TCU game he did throw a bunch of pick sixes. It wasn't a total choices of a game for him. He was very good, living up to his 5-star potential, balling out in the most important games, and there's not really any QB composition. JJ McCarthy is him. He is the starter. Next up in the running back position, it's obviously Blake Corum, the Heisman finalist, and I do not agree with the people saying that Corum is not that good. It's his offensive line. Look at what Edwards did, blah blah blah. Because Edwards and Corum had very different styles of play. Edwards, well, I love him, and he's a very great running back, and he's might even be better than Corum in his senior year. I do think that his numbers were a bit inflating, and Corum could do a lot of stuff better than him. First of all, he could take way more carries. Edwards looked kind of not good towards the end of games, or when he had a bunch of carries. And also, he earns a lot more. He can have a lot more of those, short, simple, intermediate runs. With Edwards, he has way more plays where he's stuffed behind the line, or he barely makes it to the line of scrimmage, especially, and it's hard to do with this offensive line. He does not have those plays at all. He just more has a couple plays where he breaks it, and his good runs is when he gets 15-20 yards, maybe in even an 80-yard run. Corum bruises it, but either way, they're both amazing. The running back duo is back. Corum and Edwards are going to be amazing, but Corum is the starter. Left tackle is Ladarius Henderson, the transfer from Arizona. I am very excited for this. Our old left tackles were still great, Joe Moore Award winners, but it's they kind of stalled out against Georgia last year, and stalled out versus TCU this year too. And we just got a transfer who I think could hold pretty well against a Georgia or an Alabama team. Ladarius Henderson, he's still a junior or something, or he might be a senior this year. He actually was projected to be in the second round or third round or first round of the NFL based off his athleticism, which is very good against the very good teams, and just his overall pass blocking ability. He was second team all Pac-12 net last year, I'm pretty sure. He was very, very good. One of the top offensive transfers this year. It's really the things that catapulted Michigan into the top transfer targets. He's going to be very, very good. Don't think there's much competition. Trent Jones struggled a bit last year. Barnhart's more of a right tackle. Henderson held up against some of the best defensive linemen in the Pac-12. He's the starting left tackle. Left guard is Zach Zinter, one of the top offensive line in the nation. He's returning for one more year in his senior year. You gotta understand this. He had a 5-star brother who went to Notre Dame, and while he's very good, a lot of his hype came around just being Zach Zinter's brother. That is how good Zach Zinter is. Zach Zinter is one of the most physical, grueling teams. Michigan is known as a team that will tough you out and wear a defense out after 4 quarters after facing this good of an offensive line. Zinter is the main catalyst. He should win guard of the year. Center is Drake Nugget, a transfer from Stanford. This is insane. Andrew Vastardis, our 2021 center, came in the finalist for Center of the Year. Do you know who won Center of the Year that year? Olu Oluwatimi. And guess what he did? He transferred to Michigan. What did he do? He won Center of the Year again, this time for Michigan. And do you know who was a finalist this year? Drake Nugget. He came in 3rd place for Center of the Year. And now he just transferred to Michigan. This is huge because Michigan's offense has always ran through their center, which is a weird thing to say. Zinter and the other offensive line I'm going to mention are very, very good. Elite even, but it always runs through the center because we do a lot of running up the middle, bouncing it outside, and to secure upfield or the second level or the first level is huge to our offense. And Nugget will do just that. First team All Pac-12, obviously, played with Stanford, who is one of the elite players there. Stanford at least had a good offensive line, and there's not really any competition at center for him. Drake Nugget, will be huge to our offense. Right guard, he's returning Trevor Keegan. He's just like Zinter. He's been doing amazing for years. Former 4-5-star recruit. There's nothing really much to say. Michigan at the top offensive line in the country. The center is the most important part, but the guards are also lit. They bounce outside, and even with a very good but not elite tackles last year, they were still very, very good. And now they have Keegan returning. He was actually projected to be maybe a third or second round offensive lineman. He's been amazing for Michigan, and when he returned, it created shockwaves. Everybody loved that he was returning. Right tackle is kind of the weakness. Kevin Barnhart, he won over Trent Jones because he had some struggles and some injuries. Could be changing in the middle of the year, but I don't know. Right tackle, he's still been very good, very solid, holding his own, but he hasn't really blossomed. He hasn't really had as much playing time. I think he could emerge this year with how good Joe Moore is as offensive line coach. Now he is moving to full-fledged offensive coordinator, which I'm super excited about. One of the best minds in college football, but will he be able to focus on his offensive line as much? I don't know, but still this offensive line group is super talented. If Kevin Barnhart, somebody who's only allowed a couple sacks all year, is your main weak point on your offensive line, that's pretty damn good. He might get moved to left tackle just because right tackle is more important than left tackle. Even though Ladarius Henderson has been playing left tackle his whole career, he might move to right tackle to protect the quarterback's blind side. It's not like it's a gaping hole right tackle. Barnhart is still very good, very athletic. He was a 3 or 4 star, but then he worked his way up. The coaches must be seeing something. We haven't really seen as much of him, but he was pretty decent. He held his own. He's more experienced now, and I expect him to take a big jump forward. And if he can't do it, we could always put in Miles Hilton, or a transfer that we got from Stanford. He's a former Hilton brother, or we had a guy named Hilton, Chris Hilton's brother. Transfer him here. He's a former 5-star as well. He might be playing right tackle. He has unlimited upside, but right now I've got to give it to Barnhart. Tight end is Colston Loveland. He emerged onto the scene last year. He was a 4-star recruit tight end, beat out a couple SEC schools to get him, and we can see why. Wow, what a difference. Tight end was supposed to be Eric All. He got injured. Luke Schoonmaker, I do think it's a bit overrated. He's been very, very good here, but he wasn't making a difference as much. But then when Colston Loveland came on the scene, he kept catching passes and catching passes, even during the weeks where JJ wasn't playing that well, during the last couple of games leading up to the Ohio State game. But what did he do against Ohio State? He got a touchdown. He got a lot of passes. Michigan's had a lot of good tight ends, but they've always been short to intermediate tight ends that can, hang on to the ball, maybe. But he's giving us something that could help us beat some of these SEC schools in the playoffs, or maybe contend for a natty. A downfield weapon tight end threat. Even if we don't have the best wide receivers, even if JJ does have some off games, he can always get open, kind of like Travis Kelce. I'm not comparing him to Travis Kelce, but he's kind of that, X factor or surprise opponent. He can hit you downfield. He can do amazing stuff. He also was pretty good against Purdue. He caught a touchdown. It was a very amazing catch. I recommend you see it. But yeah, he's starting tight end. We also AJ Barnett from Indiana who transferred. But yeah, he's going to be amazing. Wide receiver 1 is Roman Wilson. I wish they included him more last year. He has an awesome TikTok, but that's besides the point. He burst onto the scene in 2021 towards the back of the season, catching touchdowns like crazy. Even though he's not that tall, which is his biggest knock, we've seen a lot of short receivers do good in this game. I don't think the height, unless you want to be like a 50-50 ball receiver, is as big of a weakness as we think now. And Roman Wilson, it doesn't matter if he's not the best 50-50 ball receiver. His shiftiness and his quickness and his ability to get open and his sure hands is just amazing. I don't think he is drop the ball that much in college at all. He always can catch the deep ball. You've seen the plays in 2021. You see that touchdown that should have been called a touchdown against TCU. Even though it didn't do much against Ohio State, and in the regular season it didn't get utilized as much. It was just a bunch of bad luck, which is why people are overlooking him, because he wasn't utilized as much. But then as soon as they utilize him, amazing in the playoffs. In the game against TCU, he was really good in the beginning of the season. He was decent in the Big Ten Championship. Yeah, he's just so underrated, and I don't know why we just quit using him. I know we became a run team, and he did deal with a little bit of an injuries, but I still wish we use him more. He's a very effective weapon, fast and shifty. We choose Cornelius Johnson. I thought we had to move on to him at the beginning of the year last year, but we didn't. He's a very up and down player. He can get you very excited, like he did against Ohio State when he had 2 touchdowns and over 150 yards receiving, and against Purdue when he was very good, and against Illinois and Nebraska. He's a very up and down player. But against Michigan State, against TCU, and he had stupid penalties, and he can just disappear. I don't think he's consistent enough to become a super huge weapon, but the talent is still there. You always see him have these random games. We didn't utilize him as much in some games because, again, he had very, very up and down games. We took him out for some of the time when he was bad, but I do think because of his surge at the end of the year, we know that he can play really good against the best. And I think now that there's not really as much competition as at the wide receiver position, he's gonna go off now. His frame and his stature could be really good in the playoffs. Hopefully he breaks out into something more and he can be more consistent this year. Cornelius Johnson is wide receiver number 2. Wide receiver number 3 is, I got a surprise one here. It's Darius Clemens. I don't think this is gonna be day one, but I think towards the end of the season he's gonna get in more. AJ Henning, I know we're trying to get him to be more of a receiver, but he's always been a gadget guy. I don't think he can hold his own. Dixon hasn't shown much when he was in. He's a pretty decently high recruited guy, but I don't know. Morris wasn't as highly recruited as Darius Clemens was, so I don't think we're gonna say yes to him. So I think the answer is clearly Darius Clemens. He was very highly recruited. He was a top 150 prospect in just the 2021 class. We stole him from Oregon at the last moment. He's known for his out-of-the-world speed, and before that he was just known as a guy with good speed and good hands in the high school. But in the spring game, he caught 2 touchdowns, or a touchdown, I'm pretty sure, in the deep ball. And when he was in the regular season, he showed signs getting open. He was only in maybe 10 or more plays, but I rewatched a lot of Michigan games. He was always open. He is wide receiver number 1 potential, which is I don't think a lot of receivers on our team do. He has the potential to be good against a Georgia or an Alabama. It's very rare that you see a guy of his size with that much speed. You just look at the athleticism and talent that he has. I don't think there's anybody catching him. I think at the beginning of the season, Dixon or Morris is probably going to start. But I do think that they're not consistent enough, and the talent of Darius Clemens is going to go in. That is it for today's video. If you like this, subscribe. I try to post as much sports content. There's probably going to be one predicting Michigan's defense next. But yeah, see you guys. Bye.